So today's lesson is going to be on abstract classes. This is a special type of class, right? So when you hear of the concept of an abstract class just models an abstract concept. For example, if you think about a musical instrument, it's an abstract concept, isn't it? Right? Because if you think about it, you can't instantiate a musical instrument, but you can instantiate all of the things that are considered mutual instruments, right? So I want you to think about it this way. When you hear about abstract classes, right, you basically just have to understand that literally an abstract class basically is something that can't be instantiated. So when you hear the word instantiated, that is referring to new of something. So like new file, right? Or new J window, J panel. So you can't instantiate it. There's no thing in Java that allows it to be instantiated, right? You cannot create it by using a constructor, right? And that's because they don't represent actual objects, right? They instead describe more general details of the actions and stuff of that object, right? For example, when you think of an instrument class, that describes the basics of an instrument. If you think about it, for an instrument, what does it do? It just makes sound, right? Now, if you thought about something like the woodwind class, right? Now, if I was talking about the woodwind class, right, is also abstract with respect to music, right? Right? And the reason why it's abstract is because it describes a group of instruments. So you can't actually describe it you can describe what it is in the real world, but you can't actually make it. You can make subcomponents of it, right? Now, if you also think about those woodwind instruments, right? It also includes a general sound that woodwind instruments make. Alright, now let's talk about what abstract classes are. When you hear the term abstract, in Java, when you hear the term abstract, this is what it means. An abstract class means the following, right? You'll want to think of an abstract class they're actually declared with the keyword abstract. Okay, so here's an example. If I wanted to make an abstract class declaration, right? You're actually saying this class will never be actually implemented, but any methods that are contained within it can be used. So if I was looking at the basic, let's call it the instrument class. So remember, the instrument class is something that cannot actually be instantiated, right? So here we go. Let's take a look at it. Let's start by making the basic instrument class. So we will do this in Eclipse, so we kind of understand how it works. Now let's go and do that right now. Okay, so file, new, Java class. So this is my file IO class that I'm doing for something. I'll just move it later. So we're going to make an instrument class. We've already done a bunch of classes, so now we're going to make our instrument class. Now, our our instrument class will not have a main method, right? That's the thing. So let's go. Notice it says public class instrument. But what you want to do is you want to add the keyword. Remember, the keyword is abstract. Now, this is the instrument class. So this is my instrument class. Now, in my instrument class, I have the following thing. I have a string. I'm going to make an instance in it called string. And its string is going to be a musician. So if you think about it, for every instrument, there's a musician that's attached to it, right? Now, let's go and define the constructor. So I'm actually using how I would expect you would write your descriptions of each of your methods in your code as if you were an industry expert. Okay? So you notice I do slash 2 dots, and then what we do is we define what we're doing. Right now we're going to go and construct the constructor. Now this constructor, we say there are no predetermined things that we need. There's nothing that we need before it, so there's none. There's nothing that we have to have going for it to work. So basically there's no pre-existing conditions that need to be met. But after this thing is run, a musician has been assigned an instrument. So for our abstract class, remember, you still got to be able to make a default constructor for it. This is what we do. Public instrument, right? String. I think I spelled instrument wrong. Instrument string, and then we're going to basically take in a name, and then we're going to go this dot musician equals the local variable that we've passed to this default constructor method as name. So all we've done right now is we have just set up the internal thing that basically allows us to assign a musician's name to an instrument, right? Now, let's continue, right? Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we need to make the get method for the musician, right? So let me explain to you what this returns the name of the musician. Now, if you follow this pattern all the time, we could use the Java Docs creation tool to go and create the documentation for this entire code. So we wouldn't have to, it would be able to generate a website for us, right? That's based on our code, just like the Java documentation you see online. So if you follow this pattern, you'll be able to do it. So now pre, none, and then post. Just follow the example. The name of the musician playing instrument. So, has been returned, right? Now, let me tell you what this is. This is your basic get method. Now, remember, if you do not have the code if you don't remember how the get method works, you can go to source, and you can go to generate getters and setters, right? You can generate the getters and setters for the internal variables that you're using inside your class to describe it. Just think of a class as a noun, and then for each noun there's like bits and parts that make it up. So for example, if you were a human, you would have legs. You may also have a name. You may also have eyes. You may all that stuff, right? But this time for a musician, we need to be able to do things like get the musician as well. To get the musician for this, we just go public. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this and go public string. Remember, our musician is a string, and in order to get the musician, we basically use this pattern. Now, think of this descriptor that's in green as the get name, the ability of our code to get the musician. And when we get the musician, all we're going to do is we're literally just going to return this dot musician. We're literally just returning a copy of the musician to the user. Now, here's the best part. If you're not sure how to generate this, use the source code generator for Java inside Eclipse. Now, I want you to start remembering. Remember, for the get method, it's a public. The variable that is being returned is a string, and it always has to match the same thing as our internal variable. And then we call it get musician. So if it says musician here, then you're going to write get musician to get the musician from the user. That's all you're using, with our parenthesis saying there's no inputs that go to that method. And then all you do is return the musician. No big deal. Now, if you're not sure, just go back here, delete that, and then we go to source and we go generate setters and getters, and here's what we do. I literally just click, hey man, click this. We're not getting, I'm just going to go and generate the get musician command, and it'll generate the get musician command at the place where we had our cursor. Right? And there is our get musician. Now I'm literally just going to move this down and put it right here, because this descriptor is for this. Now if I was doing the set musician command, right? How would I do it? Basically, the set musician is this. The set musician is always returning a void. Red in. So you would say this thing sets the musician to whatever name that you set the musician to. So maybe the instrument is changed to another musician. So here's what we do. We go public void. Now it's always public void, and then we use set musician. Now remember, with our get methods, right, we didn't have anything to return, right? But if you think about it, the set musician requires something from us, the programmer, or from the person that's using this thing. So we literally just write string name. So if we need the name, we ask for the name in the call of the method, and then all we do is return go this dot musician, this dot, I spelled it wrong, dot musician equals the local name that's being passed into this program, right? Now, let's go and take a look at the pre and post conditions, right? The preconditions. The preconditions are must have a name passed. So when you call it, you need to say set musician and then quotations, whatever it is you want in the name, or you pass it a string. Then the post conditions, the preconditions are that it needs to have that, and then finally the post condition is simple. Hey, the musician is set to the new name read in. Let's not passed. And there we go. And literally, we have just created our first abstract class. Now, if you look at it, you'll notice that I don't ever create a main method in this thing, right? The reason why I don't create a main method in this thing is because we cannot actually go and test it, right? Now, we've literally just made all this stuff, right? It's perfect, right? Now, the thing that we can do after this, right? We can go and tell the computer some more things. So imagine I know that for every instrument, you know that for every instrument makes a sound, doesn't it? Right? Now, we in this program don't actually have to describe it, but we can describe what's supposed to be in there. And then what we can do is we extend this class because it's an abstract class, but then we have to implement the method that is there. Now, what I mean by implementing the method is this, all right? So I'm going to basically show you what I mean. So I've prepared this from before. We're going to zoom in on this thing here. So let's zoom in. So we have our abstract class. We have all this extra stuff. We've set our musician, and now all we're going to do is we're going to paste this information in. Now, basically what should happen is you are the programmer in this way. You don't care how the sound is made for each instrument, but you're literally telling the user that in order to program something that is an extension of instrument, which is an abstract class, you must have this special method, which is a string, which is called a sound, right? Now, I've just basically made a string called sound, right? Now, what we could do with this, right, is I could take a moment and make a vocal class, because instrument, when we have an instrument, your voice is also considered an instrument, is it not? So imagine if we took this great set of code that we have here, right? And we take that set of code, and I'm literally just going to go and put this into our note so that we kind of have it here, right? And imagine I use this code, right? I use this code to basically define some other bits of code, right? If I want to define some other bits of code, right, I have got everything set up here. This variable, this method thing that we have here that says make a sound is literally, it returns what the sound of the instrument would be, but it's just a text string, right? Now, let's go and talk about the vocal class. So you'd think that a voice is a vocal, right? It is an instrument in a sense in music. So this is just some straight music theory if you've taken music before. Some of you haven't, but just think about it. Your voice is an instrument, right? Now, let us go and construct the vocal class, which is going to be an extension of our abstract class that we created here as instrument, right? Now, there is our abstract class instrument, right? Now, here is the cool part about this. When I want to, I can do stuff like this. In my FileICO class, I have this instrument class, right? But I know I cannot create a copy of this. When I try to do that in a main method, the program just breaks. But if I wanted to, I can make a new Java class. Now watch how this works. I'm going to call this new Java class vocal. Now, remember when we created our previous classes, right? If I had, say, let's say that this was my J-frame class, right? And then I wanted to create my own version of the J-frame, I would have to extend the J-frame. So let's go and do that. So remember that this thing was an abstract class. We cannot create an instance of it. We can't set it to some variable. But I can say to another class this. Ready? So right now we're going to basically call this the vocal class. And I'm just going to basically make sure that I have my documentation in as we go along. Okay? So I'm literally just going to paste my documentation in. And then here's the best part. So the first thing that we can do is we can go and create a vocal class which extends instrument. That's it. Vocal, public vocal class extends the instrument. Now, I'm actually, because I can make this beautiful piece of code, right? I can, oh my gosh, it's saying that there are unimplemented methods. Look at that. Doesn't that look familiar? It's very similar to what happened when we created, when we said that it implemented or implement, when we had something that implemented action was done. It's like extending something, right? In this case, it's going to ask us right away to implement the method that is missing. You'll notice that there's a problem, and that's the problem, right? The first thing that you got to understand is inside our class, take a look. The first thing that we have to have in our class is a vocal constructor, very similar to our instrument thing, right? So let's go and do that, right? It's actually telling us right away that we're missing certain methods, right? And one of the methods is the constructor vocal, right? Now, if you take a look at the original instrument, the constructor that we have is this, right? Public instrument string. Public instrument string name, and we set the name of the instrument, right? Now, for a vocal, the first thing that we're missing is the constructor. So if I'm missing that, if my abstract class has this default constructor with string name, guess what? We got to have the same thing for our vocal. So the first thing we do is we'll do our constructor. Now, we copy, we paste. Here is my basic setup. I'm going to public vocal string singer name. So instead of musician, I'm using singer name. And then I go, oh, well, super. Now, what this does is it goes back up into the instrument class and says the musician is the username by using this public instrument method to do the work of setting the musician name. That's it. Now, you'll notice that there's more stuff it's complaining about. So if you look at vocal, under vocal, it says there's an unimplemented method. Oh boy, there's an unimplemented method called make sound. Darn it! My goodness. Well, let's go and make that sound. The first thing that I need to do is I need to describe what's happening with my sound, right? It returns the sound of the mission post. Now, before when we extended a class, right? All of the previous methods are there, right? Now, inside this thing, notice, we have this thing called, get musician, set musician, blah, blah, blah. But we have, look here, this thing. This make sound thing is what this code is complaining about. Take a look. If we click here, it tells us that we're missing an unimplemented method. Now if I click here, it tells me what my missing method is. If I move across, click the little X, it tells me that the missing method is make sound. Now let's go take a look at the make sound. Now if we didn't have this great IDE called the Java IDE for Java, you would have to actually create it. Now, because this is abstract, the thing that we can use right here is, instead of abstract, this one is an actual class. We have to make it public. And we say public string make sound. Now, if you think about it, the sound of the user that sings is this. Return la, 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 la. Isn't that what people make? Isn't that the sound that people make? Now, the only thing that's missing from this thing, from this program, is an ability to print itself. Right now we don't have that. And it is something that is important, right? So let's go and do that. So notice there's no more errors, right? The other thing you should remember, there's no more errors, right? If there are unimplemented methods, you need to add them. And the way you know if you have an unimplemented method is by taking a look and noticing that the first thing, the constructor needs to be copied, right? The second thing that needs to happen is any method that is created here with nothing attached to it needs to be created by you. This is just a simple signature description of how the method will be called, right? So over here you have to say public string make sound because it's going to return a sound, right? This one is telling me, hey man, if you're going to make a program, you better be able to return a string. That's called make sound. And that's it. Now, let's go and add the toString. Remember, every class has a toString, right? Every class we should make should have a basic toString in the command line. Now, this is it. Look at that. We're pretty much done. Now, it returns a string, right? That represents the instrument. There's no precondition, and there is a postcondition. So what is returned? Think about it this way. A string representing the singer, since this is a vocal class, right? So here's all I do. Public toString, public string toString. Return. Ready? Now remember, in our original instrument class, we had the concept of a musician. So let's go and return a string. Let's call it string s equals, and we go, well, the first thing what we're going to do is we're going to go super dot get musician. So we get the musician's name plus sings, and then we'll say, well, sings plus this dot make sound. So we use our basic class to go and get all that information, and then finally return the string that we created. And that's it. Now, wow, let's check it out. public static void main string args. Alright, ready? So if I go, let's go, this is vocals, vocal V, vocal, let's call this singer, equals new vocal, bracket, Jason. Alright, so that is the name of the singer, Jason. So now, if I go in system.out.println singer, we should see, if we go and print what this is right here, it should output that we have a singer. Jason sings la la la. Exactly as our toString stated, right? Now, your job is simple. I'm going to ask you to do the following, okay? This is the following. I'm going to take this code, I'm going to put it in, I'm going to put it into a Word document, and we can get at it later, but you have a full video to go and construct this. Now, if you want, what you can do is double click, zoom out. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And this is the entire abstract class. And this is the entire vocal class. Right? You can copy this and put it into your own thing. But what I want you to do is this. I'm going to describe what I want you to do for a problem. Make sure you complete it before the end of class. Okay? You're going to make your own woodwind class. Okay? Now, I will describe everything that you need to know about a woodwind, and then you're going to make another class that extends instrument. Okay? And your abstract class is going to, your class is also going to be an abstract, but it's going to extend an instrument, right? And this is it. You're literally going to do the following, right? Your abstract class, you're going to make an abstract class called woodwind with extends instrument, right? You're going to have the same constructor that you used before. Very similar to what we have with our public class vocal. Notice I said abstract class. This woodwind class is an abstract class. So instead of public class, you're going to have abstract class. And then your abstract class will give you something that cannot be instantiated but can be used to create a piccolo. Okay? And I'll describe to you what a piccolo is. So remember, this is what you're going to start with. Your new class is called instrument. Ready? Here it is. I'm going to click here, go here. You go and create your new Java class. And we're going to call this woodwind. Okay? What you guys are going to do is, we're going to get rid of this. Don't need that because it's going to be an abstract class. Now, this is very confusing. So imagine, you got an instrument class. And then we made another abstract class, which is an extension. Extends instrument. Because a woodwind instrument is something that is basically exactly like an instrument, but it has something different. The sound is the same, so here's the best part. You're literally going to add all the unimplemented methods. So the first thing that you have to add is the constructor, and we're going to use the superclass to go. We're going to do exactly what we did where we had a superclass to set up the player. right? So we could have, that's it, we just pass the player up, right? Then the next thing that you're missing is, the make sound method. The make sound method that you have for your instrument, for this one, will be the word toot. Construct it and send me a copy of this. That is your work for today. And what I would like you to consider is to create a piccolo class, which extends your woodwind, right? The description of it is as follows. Listen very carefully. The piccolo class, when it makes a sound, it's going to make a peep. And for the string, you're literally going to have your program say, whatever the musician's name for your 2-string, will say the following. I need to know the musician's name, and it's going to say plays and whatever the sound is, and that's it. And you can stop. That is your work for today. Good luck. Try it out, and then we'll try it in next class. Take care, guys.